What's good, people? It's about that time to randomly relate reverse rants, no hate. So, let me start by saying this so I can get this out the way and then get into my main purpose for this video. Yes, people, I saw the little cryptic message, if you want to call it that, from Chris Eubanks Sr. to Eddie Hearn. You tried to hurt my boy, and I'm coming for you. Okay. First off, let me say this. For one, yeah, that was shady. I agree with Chris Eubanks Sr. and anybody else that says that was shady, that these guys knew about this all of this time and tried to keep it. The fight can still go on. Okay, but first off, isn't Chris Eubanks Jr. like 33 years old? A 33-year-old grown man. What does he need his dad to come to his rescue about? So what's Chris Eubanks Sr. going to do? He's going to go and incriminate himself? You know, Chris Eubanks Jr. is not a baby. He's not a child. So the purpose of him saying what he said to Eddie, as far as him speaking his mind to say he thinks that was wrong and he's upset or he doesn't like it, okay, I get that. But I'm coming for you, like, okay, then what? You know, then what? After he come for him, then what? So it's whatever, man. Like that. And also understand too, Chris Eubanks Jr. was sitting there saying he want the fight to continue regardless, right? He want the fight. So understand my point. You are speaking as if this is a small adolescent child that you're coming to his defense. To me, it's just, it is what it is. It is what it is, you know? But I don't see anything happening. It would be stupid and pointless for him to do what? When he sees Eddie Hearn, what's going to happen? Then what? How about let your son know your life is not worth any amount of money, because what you think couldn't have went wrong might have went wrong. And then what? I don't want to outlive you. I definitely don't want to outlive my kids, right? So just saying, that was, to me, it was, so that's not something I'm going to make a whole video about. I just made a quick mention of it, and it is what it is. I don't see anything developing from that's even worth really talking about. You know, so like I said, unless Chris Eubanks Sr. is going to do something stupid and incriminate himself, I don't see the point. Next thing I want to talk about, okay, this is the main thing I wanted to really address, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on this either, but Carlos Adames, you know, he destroyed Juan Montiel in 3 rounds. So he says that Charlo wouldn't last one round with him. You know, Charlo went the distance with Montiel and he destroyed him in 3 rounds. Okay, I see people losing their minds in the comment section. Well, listen, you never know what can happen in the fight. Things can happen. So it is what it is. And of course, he's trying to get attention drawn to himself. He wants to fight. Cool. Why not? Why not? Take the fight, Charlo. Now, if Charlo is trying to get those 3 titles off of Triple G, well, I think that will make more sense. And then after you secure those titles, whether it's Carlos Adames or another worthy opponent, so be it. But let me say this. Before you guys start getting all silly and start losing your mind because of what happened, let's not forget something, okay? Marvin Hagler stopped Thomas Hearns in 3 rounds. He knocked him out. Thomas Hearns knocked out Roberto Duran in 2 rounds. Okay, these are also great fighters we're talking about. Roberto Duran gave Marvin Hagler one hell of a fight. So, can we sit here and just say because of what happened with one person, it's just automatic that it's going to happen that way? George Foreman, he knocked out Ken Norton in 4 rounds. Ken Norton went the distance with Ali every time. He knocked out Joe Frazier twice and early. Frazier and Ali went the distance every time. Ali knocks out Foreman. Ernie Shavers went the distance and yeah, Ali was 37 when he fought, but he went the distance with Ali, right? So he knocked Ken Norton out, I think the first round, first or the second. I think it was the first round, but got rid of him early. So things can happen. Yes, I'm certainly not saying it's impossible, but I'm just saying people get so hyped up over words. Yeah, he's going to say he'll do this, he'll do that. He wants the fight. Now, does he really believe that? Well, if Montiel got knocked out in 3 rounds, and for him to say that because of that, Charlo wouldn't go 1 round, that doesn't make any sense. But as far as him believing that he can beat Charlo, well, he's a fighter. He should believe he can beat him. He wants to fight. Otherwise, you're just fighting just to see what happens, right? You want payday. I know you want payday. No, that's what that would end up being, right? So he's supposed to be confident in himself. I think it's time for Charlo to start fighting these guys. Like I said, I feel like him and a lot of other guys wasted time trying to wait for Canelo. Instead of just saying, you know what, I'm going to fight all the top guys here. I'm going to fight the guys that Canelo won't fight. I'm going to beat those guys. Andre could have had that same approach. So could Charlo. You know, there's certain fighters that's out there right now that fighters do not want to fight against because it's high risk and low reward. Then you have people who they want the fights, but because of all this network nonsense, you know, he's Matchroom, I'm PBC, whatever, blah, 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 then the fights don't happen. You know, if he can't get the Triple G fight, why not? Got to fight somebody, and might as well be a worthy opponent. And I get tired of champions not being in the ring for a long time, and then end up coming back fighting a C-class fighter or something, and say, I just wanted to make sure, you know, get some rounds in. And I get it and I understand it. You know, that's one of the things I respected about Errol Spence, because both times that he was out, he came back and fought a top quality guy. But now look at what's going on with him and Terence Crawford. It's just so much of nothing happening. So Eric Carlos Adames, he looked good against Juan Montiel, and why not? You know, why not fight Charlo? You know, yeah, that's a fight that I think people would be interested in seeing. But at the end of the day, y'all, it all comes down to if these guys really want to make it happen. And if it's a network situation and all this other nonsense, like I've been saying, like what the hell is going on in boxing? It's always something to just keep fights from happening. Now, this is by no stretch of the mind considered a mega fight. A fight can be underestimated, and then 2 fighters go in there and actually give you a hell of a show. So who knows? But I think it's a good fight. I think it's a fight that should happen. I do not know what Triple G plans is. I do not know what's going on, period, with most of these guys, because they say one thing and then they end up fighting someone that we just don't know, or it just doesn't make any real sense a lot of times. Now, y'all know Charlo's, I like them as fighters. At the same time, like I said, you know, at least Jermall went out and unified his division. Jermall is in a position of, you know, you have talent, man, and you're 33 years old now. You have talent. You're only going to get older. And whatever you're not doing now, when you look back, I think there'll be a lot of regret. I think there'll be a lot of, man, I should have did this, I should have did that. Because when you're looking at something based on what people are saying in comments, or just people saying things around, word gets around about how people feel about you, you defend yourself and you get in your feelings. But then when you really look at yourself, you think, well, damn, what was I doing all this time? And we know Jermall Charlo can fight. That's the whole thing with me, is like, the guy can fight. Him and his brother both can fight. So, like, what's the holdup? Go out there and make it happen. The hell with Canelo. If Canelo Just imagine if Jermall Charlo would have fought Andre. I believe he'd beat Demetrius Andre. I believe he'd beat Smith, Billy Joe. I believe he beat these guys. I believe that, I believe he'll beat Caleb Plant. I think he can outbox Benavidez. But just imagine if he had those names on his resume versus the names that he do have. And he's beaten some good fighters, but at the same time, it's been in spurts, and it's the type of thing where it's a disservice to the boxing fans who want to see these fights, who pay to see these fights, who invest time in you, because understand, when somebody is buying pay-per-views and they're driving out, going to these fights, you have no career if you have no fans. If fight fans don't exist, you have nothing. Person don't have to be a fan of a fighter. I'm not a fan of anybody. I just like the Charlos as fighters. So when you hear me say I like a fighter as a fighter, that's what I mean. I respect their skills. I don't know them personally. I don't like, I like him, he's a good guy. I don't know you. You could be a scumbag for all I know. I'm just looking at the skills. Okay, that's what I'm going by when I say that. So don't mistake me for one of those, but you just said I like the Charlos as fighters. There's many fighters I like as fighters. Old school, new school, whatever the hell you want to call it. There's nobody that, I like him. I don't know them. I like her. No, I don't know her. I'm just basing it on your skill set. So we know that, Jermall Charlo can fight. But the holdup is just, what are you trying to do? So you would think that he's trying to book and secure certain fights. You think that he's trying to make big fights happen. Maybe that's what he's doing. I have no idea. But I think Charlo versus Adames is a good fight. And that's who I'd rather see him fight. It just so, somebody more his age, it just so happens that Triple G has 3 of the major titles. So, you understand? It only makes sense. He has to fight someone. And in terms of Triple G being older now, people feel like it's safer for him to take a different route. But at the same time, let's say he fights a lesser fighter and then lose, and then some lesser fighter is unified champion. Well, you know what will happen if Jermall Charlo fight that guy? People are going to say, oh man, look how he got his titles. Now I know if he fights Triple G, which I feel hands down he'll destroy Triple G. But he beats Triple G, they're going to say he was old. They didn't say he was old. Some people would say he was old versus Canelo. The Canelo fans, the biased Canelo fans, didn't want to say he was old because they don't want to feel like they're tainting Canelo's image and legacy of saying he beat a guy that was over the hill. Or Oscar De La Hoya said it for you guys. But at the end of the day, I just feel like Triple G right now holding on to the titles, it's less beneficial to him health-wise to take the type of beating from Charlo that I'm pretty sure Charlo will put on him. But at the same time, too, if you're going to fight anybody, because you can take a beating from a lesser opponent, but if you're going to go in there and you're going to fight anybody, if you have a retirement fight and it's not with Charlo, okay, whatever. But if you just feel like I want to continue to fight, now you go in there, let's say you fight Charlo or Charlo beat him bad enough to make him say, you know what, I'm done with this shit. Whatever. Just saying, we want to see guys hold the titles that's going to defend the titles with honor, that's not going to try to lie to the fans and make the fans believe that they're fighting quality guys when they're not. It's one thing when you're taking the fights that you have to take because there's nobody else available and you're trying to keep busy. I get that. I get it. It's better than just sitting back doing nothing. We watch Andre Ward waste 3 or 4 years out of his life just not boxing. I don't know what the hell is going on. I mean, I remember the story about management and just different things, but that's years you can't get back. So when Andre Ward disappeared, when he retired rather, it was like people looked at it like he has so much more to do, but no, I actually saw a decline in his skills. This was not the same Andre Ward. And I feel like for him to continue fighting, who knows what would have happened. But when you don't feel it anymore, you feel like it's time to stop, then it's time to stop. And he was, what, 33? Triple G is 40. And so basically Father Time is definitely not on his side. And the thing with Charlo is, if he keeps waiting, okay, the longer you wait to accomplish something, then it's like, how much longer do you have after you make this big accomplishment? Like, for example, let's say you unify the division, then you're 34 by the time you do it. Well, let's say you have a couple of subpar opponents. Now you're 36, right? Now you fight another step up, a big challenge, and then you get knocked out. Then it's like, well, Charlo fought these, he fought these meatballs, and now look what happened when he stepped up. No, it's not like he haven't fought good fighters. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But yes, there are guys out there that he has not fought. And I don't like him saying that he don't want to fight Demetrius Andre because there's no value in fighting him. No more than not. Don't like Canelo Alvarez saying that shit, talking about he's done nothing, and that's what he's basing everything on. He only had this amount of title fights, or he only fought this person, he hasn't done nothing. But then you go fight lesser fighters who's done less. And we've seen this pattern with champions, title holders in this sport, where they'll say, a guy is not as good as someone else. Like George Kambosos saying, Teofimo Lopez saying that George Kambosos was better than Devin Haney, Tank Davis, Ryan Garcia, he has a better resume, all this stuff he was saying. And he thought he was going to, have a sure win, and then try to belittle them. They got to eliminate each other to prove they deserve a shot with me. And he was crying about how, he was so overlooked by Lomachenko that they didn't even put a rematch clause in there. And then the fact that he felt disrespected and said, why would I give him a rematch? He wouldn't give me one, right? That was his words. But then you try to make us think that, which we know better. That Kambosos is better than Devin and all these guys. Well, we saw what happened when Devin and Kambosos fought. Now, I have no question in my mind that Tank Davis will knock George Kambosos out of his boots. Ryan Garcia beats George Kambosos. Let's stop playing these games. Just like Teofimo lost to him. Ryan, I would go with Ryan over George Kambosos because Ryan Garcia, the height that he has, the reach with his hand speed, I don't think George Kambosos would be able to get inside the way he needs to. But Ryan Garcia does have a tendency to stand straight up and come in a straight line, and when he's loading up on his shot, that's how he got caught by Luke Campbell as well. When he's throwing his shots, he throws from the hip, and he leaves himself wide open. So George Kambosos can be sneaky. Now, don't get me wrong, George Kambosos can fight. He's not a shit fighter, but stop it. And this is something that we've been seeing in boxing for a long time. People taking these, C and B class fights, C and B. Well, I'll say C and D class fighters, and then trying to make them like their B plus level. I would say George Kambosos is a B minus. I'd say he's a B minus as a fighter. He's not a B plus, not an A minus, definitely not an A plus. I'd say he's a B minus. And he still beat Teofimo. So the whole thing with these fights, we can always say what we think will happen, and if the fight doesn't happen, people will stick to their guns. When the fight happens and then what you predicted doesn't happen, then it's like, it was because of this and because of that. People, we need to see fights happen. Every fighter is not going to become a star, and especially overnight. It may seem like that, but sometimes it's like Joe Joyce, for example. Right? Let's not forget, people took Joe Joyce lightly, and when he fought Dubois, people called Dubois a quitter and was saying that he was supposed to beat Dubois. Dubois ain't fought nobody, and all in one night, with all of this mystique surrounding him, and what if this, and could he take the right hand from Wilder? What if this? What if that? And people respected Joseph Parker as a fighter, and we saw what he did to Joseph Parker, and it was like, wow, okay, I didn't expect that. And we saw what happened. So, just saying, I would rather see the fights happen, and then we have a clear winner, so we know who the better fighter is, versus you telling me who's going to win, me telling you who's going to win, and arguing about who's going to win. I certainly don't get into these debates. I just have my opinion, and other people have theirs. Most of the time, I really don't even have an opinion on most situations. Now, Fundora versus Jermall, I just think that's an easy win for Jermall, because Fundora, I'm just not impressed by his skills at all, and he's too easy to hit with any punch. You can slap him, you can take your finger and pluck him in the face. He's just there to be hit. So I'm not impressed by his skill set, and the fact that he called Jermall out is like, okay, hey man, I respect your heart, I appreciate that, but so that fight is like, okay, now let's say if I'm wrong, so be it. I'm not worried about that, but that's a fight where I feel like, I just can't. I mean, unless Jermall Charlo has an awful night, I can't see him beating Jermall Charlo. But that's the whole thing. We want the fights. Now, Fundora, no. I'm not interested in the Fundora Jermall Charlo fight. I'm really not. But I'm not going to knock him for trying to get his shot. But Carlos Adames versus Jermall Charlo, the fight could happen. A fight could happen. But yeah, all this stuff, like all of a sudden now Carlos Adames is the man at that weight class. Well, let's find out. Anyways, what would y'all rather see? Jermall Charlo go for undisputed against Triple G, then fight Adames? Or do y'all feel like Triple G should take a easier fight than Jermall Charlo? Because I really don't think Triple G has a chance in hell to beat Jermall Charlo. I think Jermall Charlo will destroy him, and that's just a fight. That's an ass whooping he don't need to take. And also understand the type of money that Triple G just made against Canelo. Payday versus this fight, Charlo versus Triple G, will be a much bigger payday than Charlo versus Adames. So if he can get that Triple G fight, I think that's the smart route. Get them belts first, then from there, Adames or whoever else is in the top. Champions need to fight better opposition. They need to fight better. It's not good. This sucks. This sucks when you're the champion, but there's contenders that have a better resume than you. That sucks. And if you don't fight those individuals, and I'm not talking about Charlo so much, I mean just in general, when that happens, that sucks, man. Because at the end of the day, it's like, well, damn, what have you been doing all this time? And when you start looking at who's who, because let's not get it twisted, everybody's not going to the Hall of Fame just because they had a belt. Let's not confuse that. Everybody's not iconic. Everybody's no damn legend just because they had a belt at one time. Hall of Fame worthy fighters, they're coming far and few. And there's people that's probably going to be gifted into the Hall of Fame. I mean, hell, like I said, Sylvester Stallone is in the damn Hall of Fame. He's never a boxer ever in his life. Okay, he was never a boxer. He's in the Hall of Fame because of Rocky movies. Like, what the hell? Okay. I know what that was about, though. Anyway, talk to me in the comment section. Never fall in love with lies. Remember, the truth brings hate out of people, and I will catch y'all in the next video.